Hey, so you ever have one of those mornings where you wake up and something just feels off? Like the air's too still, the light's wrong? That's how it started for me. Went to bed Tuesday night after binge watching some dumb space documentary, woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Groggy, head pounding, stumbled downstairs for coffee, and that's when everything went sideways. My mom screamed. My dad looked like he'd seen a ghost. My ghost. They said they said I'd been missing for a whole year. But dude, I swear on my life, I thought it was yesterday. Where did that year go? Who or what was living my life while I was gone? And why does my little brother keep whispering that the man in the walls is hungry again? This is what happened after I vanished for a year and came back. Strap in. It gets weird. Man, my head was killing me. Like the mother of all hangovers, except I hadn't touched a drop, just that space doc about black holes swallowing stars. Fell asleep on the couch around midnight. Typical Tuesday. Stumbled into the kitchen, squinting against the stupidly bright sunlight streaming through the window over the sink. Way too cheerful for how I felt. Reached for the coffee pot. Automatic ritual. Gee, Jake? My mom's voice. From the doorway. Not her usual morning sleepy head. This was strangled, like someone had their hand around her throat. I turned, rubbing my eyes. Hey, Mom, you okay? You look like you... She wasn't just pale. She was sheet white, trembling. Her hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. Then a full-blown scream ripped out of her. John! John! It's him! It's Jake! My dad burst into the kitchen, still pulling on a robe. He skidded to a halt, eyes wide, jaw slack. He stared at me like I was an alien or a ghost. Honestly, his face, pure, unadulterated terror mixed with something else. Disbelief? Relief? It was chaos. Jake? His voice was a rasp. Is it really you? Yeah? I took a step back, bumping into the counter. The coffee pot felt suddenly heavy in my hand. What's going on? Did I sleep through my alarm or something? Why are you guys freaking out? My mom rushed forward, stopping just short of touching me, like I might burn her. Tears streamed down her face. Oh, Jake, baby, where have you been? Been? I blinked. I was on the couch, fell asleep watching TV, like last night? This wasn't making sense. It felt like walking into the middle of a movie I hadn't seen. My dad stepped closer, his eyes scanning me up and down, intense, searching. Jake, son, you've been gone, missing, for a year. The world tilted. The cheerful sunlight felt mocking. A year? The word tasted like dust. No way. That's insane. I was here last night. I made popcorn. I texted Ben about the game. My dad shook his head slowly, his eyes red-rimmed. Ben moved away 8 months ago, Jake, after the search party stopped. We thought you were dead. His voice cracked. Dead? Search parties? None of it computed. It felt like a bad joke, a cruel prank. But the raw agony on their faces, that wasn't acting. My stomach churned. The spilled coffee smell was suddenly overpowering, sickly sweet. Look at the date, my mom whispered, pointing a shaking finger at the digital clock on the microwave. June 22nd. I froze. I went to sleep on Tuesday, June 21st, last year. That documentary, it had been about gravitational time dilation near black holes. A cold, sick feeling started spreading from my gut. This isn't funny, I managed, my voice tight. Seriously, stop it. We're not joking, Jake. My dad's voice was firm now, laced with a desperation that scared me more than anything. You disappeared on June 21st last year. Vanished. No note, no calls, nothing. Your phone was found dead in your room. The police, the private investigators, we looked everywhere. He pulled out his own phone, hands trembling, and scrolled frantically. He shoved it towards me. It was a local news website. The headline screamed, "Still missing. Community holds vigil for Jacob Miller 1 year after disappearance." The date below the headline, June 21st. And the picture? It was me. My high school graduation photo, the one I hated. My face smiled awkwardly back from the screen under the word missing. The room swam. The floor felt unstable. A year, a whole freaking year. Gone. Erased. While I, slept? Where? How? Panic, cold and sharp, started clawing its way up my throat. Where? Where was I? The question came out choked. We don't know, honey, my mom sobbed, finally reaching out to touch my arm. Her hand felt ice cold. We got a call this morning from Sheriff Donnelly. He said someone matching your description was seen walking down Miller's Lane towards the house. We didn't believe it. We thought it was another cruel hoax. But then you were just here. Walking down Miller's Lane? That was the road past the old Henderson place, about a mile away. How did I get there? Why was I walking home like nothing happened? Let's get you cleaned up, my dad said, his voice gruff but gentler now. He gestured towards the spilled coffee. You look exhausted. We all need to sit down. Process this. Exhausted didn't cover it. I felt hollowed out, like my insides had been scooped away and replaced with static. They led me to the living room. Everything looked familiar, yet not. The furniture was rearranged slightly. New curtains, a framed photo on the mantelpiece I didn't recognize, my parents looking older, sadder, standing by a lake I didn't know. And then I saw him, peeking around the doorframe to the hallway. My little brother, Timmy, he was 8 now. He should have been 7 when I vanished. He looked taller, thinner, his eyes, wide and scared, locked onto mine. Not the joyful leap and tackle I was used to. Timmy, I said, forcing a weak smile. Hey, buddy. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. Then his voice, a tiny, terrified whisper, cut through the heavy silence. Mommy, is it really Jake, or is it the other one? The other one? My blood ran cold. Timmy, what other one? My mom rushed over, pulling Timmy close, shooting me an apologetic, panicked look. Shh, sweetie. It's okay. It's Jake. It's really him. She smoothed his hair, but her eyes darted nervously between me and Timmy. Timmy buried his face in her side, but his whisper was loud enough. The man who looked like Jake, the one who lived in his room, he was scary. The air vanished from my lungs. Someone else? Living here, in my room, wearing my face? The static in my head roared. This wasn't just lost time. Something else had happened. Something monstrous. Who? I demanded, my voice rising. Who was he, Timmy? What did he look like? My dad stepped between us, his face grim. Jake, please. He's confused. Traumatized. We all are. Seeing you, it's a shock. Let's just take this slow. Slow, I exploded, the panic finally breaking loose. My brother just said someone impersonated me for a year. In my own house. How do we take that slow? My hands were shaking violently. I felt like I was going to throw up, or scream, or both. This was the edge, the first cracks in whatever was left of my sanity. My mom started crying again. Timmy whimpered. My dad just looked, defeated, haunted. Let me see my room, I said, the words tight and cold. Jake, maybe not right now, my dad started. Now! The shout surprised even me. It echoed in the suddenly too quiet house. They exchanged a look heavy with fear and secrets. Finally, my dad nodded, a slow, reluctant movement. Okay, son, but be prepared. Things changed. Walking down the hall felt like walking through a funhouse mirror version of my own life. Everything familiar, but distorted. The smell was different, stale air and something faintly chemical, like disinfectant. We stopped at my door. My band posters were gone, replaced by nothing. Just plain, off-white paint. My dad took a deep breath and turned the knob. The room was empty, stripped bare. No bed, no desk, no overflowing laundry hamper, no familiar clutter of video games and textbooks, just bare floorboards, faded rectangles on the walls where my furniture had been, and a single, heavy-duty padlock securing the closet door. The window was covered by a thick, industrial-looking blackout shade screwed into the frame. It looked like a cell or a quarantine zone. What happened in here? My voice was barely a whisper. The emptiness was suffocating. This wasn't just change. This was erased, purged. My mom clung to Timmy in the hallway, refusing to look inside. My dad, a hand over his face. After he left, about 2 months ago, we just couldn't bear it. We packed everything away, cleaned thoroughly. He wouldn't meet my eyes. The closet, we locked it, its things. We didn't know what else to do. It's. The word was ice. You called him it. My dad flinched. It wasn't you, Jake. It looked like you, mostly. Sounded a bit like you at first, but it was wrong, off, like a bad copy. The eyes. He shuddered. Empty and cold. So cold. And you just lived with it? The accusation in my voice was sharp. For 10 months, you let it sleep in my bed, eat at my table, talk to Timmy? What choice did we have? My mom cried out from the hall, her voice ragged. We thought it was you. At first, we were overjoyed. You were home, but then the little things. It didn't remember things only Jake would know. Favorite foods changed. Mannerisms were stiff. And the smell, sometimes a faint smell like ozone and wet earth. And Timmy saw it, I stated flatly, looking at my brother's terrified face peeking from behind my mom. He knew. He tried to tell us, my dad admitted, guilt thick in his voice, for months. Said Jake was different. Said Jake scared him. Said Jake talked to the walls at night. We thought it was trauma, denial. We told him he was wrong, that his big brother was just adjusting. He trailed off, the weight of their mistake crushing him. Timmy spoke again, his voice tiny but clear in the awful silence. He wasn't Jake. He was the shadow man. He lived in Jake's room, but he came from the basement. He said the basement was hungry. Everyone froze. Even my parents looked startled, glancing uneasily towards the stairs leading down. The basement. Dad's workshop, Mom's old canning supplies, and a cold storage room we never used because it gave everyone the creeps. The basement, I asked Timmy, trying to keep my voice calm. What about the basement, buddy? Timmy pointed a small, shaking finger towards the stairs. He went down there, late, when the house was sleeping. He took things down in a food sometimes, but other things, shiny things, and he talked to the dark. The dark talked back. My dad's face had gone ashen. We never heard anything. We thought he was sleepwalking. A new wave of nausea hit me, mixed with a terrifying curiosity. The basement, the locked closet containing the imposter's things, my missing year. It all seemed to coil around that dark, cold space below us. The initial shock was hardening into something else. A desperate, gnawing need to know, to understand what stole a year of my life, what wore my face, what scared my little brother into whispers about shadow men and hungry basements. The confusion and terror were still there, a constant thrumming under my skin, but it was being drowned out by a rising tide of anger and a chilling determination. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I need to see the basement, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. And I need that closet open. My dad looked horrified. Jake, no, it's not safe. We haven't been down there since it vanished. And closet, we don't know what's in there. Exactly, I said, turning to face him fully. My hands had stopped shaking. Now they were clenched to fists at my sides. I don't remember a year. Something pretended to be me. It lived here. It terrified my brother, and it came from down there. I pointed towards the basement door visible at the end of the hall. I need to know what it was. I need to know where I was. The fear in their eyes was palpable. They were scared of the basement, scared of what was in the closet, maybe even scared of me now. But the look Timmy gave me, pure, desperate hope mixed with residual terror, that sealed it. The meltdown wasn't over. It was just shifting. The screaming panic was turning into a cold, focused fury. The confusion was hardening into a resolve to tear the truth out of this nightmare, no matter how ugly it got. Give me the key, Dad, I said, holding out my hand. My voice didn't waver. I'm going down there, and I'm opening that closet. The key felt cold and heavy in my hand. Dad hadn't wanted to give it up. Mom pleaded with her eyes. Timmy just hid behind her legs, silent now. But I wasn't backing down. Not after what Timmy said. The man in the walls. The other one. The basement was hungry. I gripped the closet doorknob. It felt slick under my palm. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. What was left of it? The thing that wore my face? What kind of trophies did a monster keep? I yanked the door open. Cold air escaping, a faint, acrid smell. Ozone and damp earth, just like Mom described, wafts out. The closet was deeper than I remembered, pitch black. The bare bulb from my room didn't penetrate far, but I could see shapes, boxes, bundles. I fumbled for the light switch inside the closet. Clicked it. A single weak bulb flickered to life, casting long, dancing shadows. It wasn't packed, just a few things shoved to the back, but every single item screamed wrongness. First, clothes. My clothes? Sort of. A faded band t-shirt I loved, but the logo was distorted, subtly off like a bad photocopy. Jeans that looked like mine, but the wash was wrong, too uniform, too dark, and folded neatly on top a hoodie I didn't recognize. Thick, coarse fabric in a dull gray. It looked functional, like something you'd wear for heavy labor in the cold. Then the notebooks, 3 cheap, spiral-bound things stacked together. I reached for the top one. My fingers brushed the cover. Cold. Unnaturally cold. I flipped it open. Blank. Page after page of stark, empty white. Disappointment warred with dread. Until I got halfway through. Then, scribbles. Not words, not pictures, just Frantic, overlapping lines, like a child trying to mimic writing or someone scribbling in a blind panic. Dense tangles of graphite pressed so hard it tore the paper in places. I flipped another page. More tangles, and then a single word scrawled huge and shaky across the center of a page. Consume. The graphite looked dark, greasy, almost like charcoal. The sight of it, that word in that frantic hand, sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. The next notebook was the same, mostly blank pages, then violent tangles. Near the back, another word, repeated over and over, filling an entire page. Hunger, 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 hunger. The letters bled into each other, jagged and desperate. The third notebook. This one felt heavier. I opened it. More tangles. Then, near the middle, drawings. Crude stick figure things. One showed a tall, skinny figure standing next to a smaller one. Timmy? Lines radiated from the tall figure towards the small one. Not friendly lines, jagged, aggressive lines. Below it, scratched deep. Sound. Taste. Another drawing, a crude house, an arrow pointing down beneath it. Below the house, a dark, scribbled mass, and above the mass, huge block letters, Source. The last drawing made my blood freeze. It was the tall figure again, standing over a bed. In the bed, another stick figure, me, but drawn faintly like a ghost. Arrows pointed from the bed figure to the tall figure, and below it, one word, mine. It was a map, a confession, a diary of possession. This thing, it hadn't just pretended to be me. It had fed on what? On Timmy's fear, on my life, on me, while I was wherever I was. I dropped the notebook like it burned. It landed with a thud beside the gray hoodie. That's when I saw the other thing tucked into the corner. Half hidden. A box. A simple cardboard box. But sealed shut with thick black duct tape. Crisscrossed over and over, sealing it tight. And written on the side in that same shaky, frantic hand as the notebooks. Do not open. Not yet. Source is watching. Guttural rumble seems to vibrate through the floorboards for a split second. My head snapped up. Timmy whimpered from the hallway. It's mad, he whispered. You touched its things. Dad looked pale. Jake, please. That's enough. We need to call the sheriff. Let professionals handle. No. My voice was flat. Cold. The terror was still there, buzzing under my skin, but it was buried under a layer of ice now. Ice forged from the horrifying proof in this closet. It ends now. The basement, where it came from, where it went. I kicked the box aside. It slid heavily across the floorboards. Whatever was in there could wait. The source couldn't. I pushed past my parents, past Timmy's wide, frightened eyes, down the hall, towards the basement door. That familiar, flimsy wooden door that always led to Dad's dusty tools and Mom's forgotten preserves, except now it looked like the entrance to a tomb. The knob was cold, colder than the closet doorknob, colder than it had any right to be in a summer house. I twisted it, unlocked. Of course it was. The imposter came and went freely. I pulled the door open. A rush of frigid, damp air blasts upwards. It carries that smell, ozone, wet earth, but stronger now, mixed with something else, metallic, like old blood, and beneath it, a faint, sickly sweet decay. Darkness, absolute, swallowing darkness. The weak light from the hallway only penetrated the first few steps of the wooden stairs before being devoured. The cold air flowed out like a physical thing, wrapping around my ankles, creeping up my legs. Jake, don't, Mom pleaded, her voice cracking. At least let me get a flashlight. Dad yelled, already turning towards the kitchen. I didn't wait. I couldn't. The pull was too strong, the need to know what had taken me, what had lived my life, what watched from below. It was an obsession now, a terrifying gravity pulling me down. I stepped onto the first stair, then the second. The wood groaned under my weight, a sound magnified tenfold in the silence. The cold intensified with each step down. By the fifth step, I was shivering uncontrollably, my breath fogged in the icy air. The smell. God, the smell. That metallic tang was stronger. It coated the back of my throat. The sweet decay beneath it was nauseating. And the ozone, it made the hair on my arms stand on end, like before a lightning strike. But down here, in this frozen dark, I reached the bottom step. Pitch black. I could see nothing, hear nothing but my own ragged breathing and the frantic hammering of my heart. The silence wasn't empty, though. It felt expectant, thick, like the air before a scream. A heavy thump from the hallway above. Dad dropping the flashlight. Jake! Flashlight! Dad's voice echoed from the top of the stairs, strained with panic. I didn't turn back. My eyes were straining, trying to find shapes in the void. Was that a deeper shadow over there? Movement? I took a step forward onto the concrete floor. Freezing cold seeped through my socks instantly. Another step. My outstretched hand brushed against something rough and gritty, the concrete wall. Then I heard it. A faint, wet, dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled slowly across the concrete floor. It stops. My blood turned to slush. Every muscle locked. I stopped breathing. Schluck. Closer this time. From my left, towards the back where the old cold storage room was. Schluck. It was moving, slowly, deliberately, towards me. The terror was back, full force, threatening to buckle my knees. The icy resolve was cracking. This was madness. What was I doing? I needed light. I needed to get out. I started to turn, to stumble back towards the stairs. My foot scuffed against something on the floor, something small and hard. It skittered away into the darkness with a tiny clink. Schluck, schluck. Closer, much closer. Maybe 10 feet away now. The sound was wetter, heavier. The dragging sound speeds up slightly. The dripping sound becomes faster, more insistent. Panic seized me. I lunged blindly for the stairs, my hand scrabbling against the rough wall. My shoulder slammed into the wooden banister. Pain flared, sharp and bright. I fumbled for the first step, hauling myself up. Jake, here! Dad's voice was right above me. A beam of light suddenly stabbed down the stairs, cutting through the blackness like a knife. The light was blinding after the absolute dark. I blinked, shielding my eyes, scrambling up another step. The beam swept past me and froze. Dad's sharp, strangled gasp from the top of the stairs. I followed the light. It illuminated a patch of the concrete floor near the back wall, near the cold storage room door, which stood slightly ajar. And there, glistening wetly in the stark beam, was a trail. A wide, dark smear leading from the open doorway towards the spot where I'd been standing, like something thick and viscous had been dragged across the floor. At the end of the smear, just before it vanished into the darkness, beneath the stairs where the light couldn't reach, lay something small and metallic. My class ring. The one I lost yesterday? A year ago? It lay in a small, dark puddle. A low, guttural growl rumbles from the darkness beneath the stairs. Not animal. Something deeper, hungrier. The beam of the flashlight trembled violently in Dad's hand. From the impenetrable blackness under the stairs, a voice rasped. A voice that was a horrifying mockery of my own, but distorted, wet, and filled with a terrible, gnawing emptiness. You came back. Missed you, Jake. The dragging sound explodes into a frantic scrabbling rushing towards the stairs. Dad screams. The flashlight beam jerks wildly, then drops, clattering down the steps, plunging everything into near darkness, just as it's on the stairs, climbing, in the dark. I can hear it, schluck, schluck, and that smell, rotten meat and ozone. Dad's flashlight, where is it? Foot of the stairs, gotta find it. A desperate click, click, click of a flashlight failing. No, 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 it's dead. Battery's dead or broken. Schluck! Right behind me. The wet dragging is right there. A low guttural growl vibrates the air. I lunge sideways, away from the stairs, crashing into stacks of dusty boxes. Cardboard tore. Something heavy and metallic clattered to the floor. The smell was overwhelming, a physical force pushing down on me. I could feel it in the dark, a presence radiating cold and that terrible gnawing emptiness. Jah! The voice rasped again, horribly close. Not just mimicking my voice now, it was using it, twisting it into something wet and broken. Yes! Came back, missed the sound, the task, a sub-intake of breath from the entity. Like it's sniffing. Fear! Fresh! Good! It was feeding on my terror right now. Just like the notebook said. Consume! Pure animal instinct took over. I scrambled backwards on my hands and knees, kicking out blindly. My foot connected with something solid, yielding. Not hard like a wall. Soft yet dense, like rotten fruit wrapped in leather. A wet, sickening squelch. The entity lets out a choked, furious hiss. It recoiled, just for a second, but it was enough. My scrabbling hand closed around something cold and cylindrical near the fallen boxes. A pipe wrench. Dad must have dropped it months ago. I didn't think. I swung. Hard. Blind. Crack! The wrench connects with something solid, wet, and brittle. A shriek. Inhuman, agonized, tears through the basement, vibrating the concrete. The shriek wasn't just sound. It was a physical wave of wrongness. It punched through my skull, making my vision swim with gray static. I felt warm blood trickle from my nose, but the wet, dragging sound retreated rapidly, scuttling back towards the cold storage room. Silence. Thick, ringing silence, broken only by my own ragged sobs and the frantic pounding of my heart. The cold storage room. It had gone back in there. Sealed itself in, or was it lying in wait? Light suddenly flooded the basement. Harsh, blinding. Dad stood at the top of the stairs, gripping another bigger flashlight, his face ashen. Mom was behind him, clutching Timmy, both weeping uncontrollably. "Jake, answer me!" Dad bellowed, the beam sweeping erratically. "I'm here." I choked out, pushing myself up. My legs felt like jelly. I was covered in dust, grime, and something dark and sticky that wasn't oil. The wrench trembled in my hand. It went back. The cold room. Dad descends, flashlight beam fixed on the cold storage door. He reached me, grabbing my arm, pulling me towards the stairs. His grip was vice-like, trembling. "Out. Now. We're getting out. Sheriff, hospital. Now." "No." I pulled back, surprising even myself. The terror was still there, a live wire in my chest, but beneath it, the cold fury was back, the need to know. "We have to finish this. It's trapped in there. We have to see. We have to know what it is. Jake, you're hurt. You're bleeding. That thing. Look!" I yelled, pointing the wrench not at the cold room, but at the floor where I'd fallen, where the boxes had spilled. In the strong beam of Dad's flashlight amidst the scattered tools and junk lay something that hadn't been there before. Something that spilled out of a broken, ancient-looking wooden crate I'd knocked over. Bones. Small, white, brittle-looking bones. But not animal. Human-looking. Finger bones, ribs, fragments of a tiny skull. And tangled amongst them, tarnished and old, were shiny things. A woman's locket, a man's pocket watch, a child's silver rattle. Shiny things. Just like Timmy said it took down here. Mom's stifled sob from the stairs. Timmy buries his face. "Oh God," Dad whispered, the flashlight beam shaking violently over the grisly collection. The Hendersons, Old Man Miller, the Peterson kid 50 years ago. They all vanished near here. The rumors, the stories about the foundation, they were true. The stolen time wasn't just mine. The hunger. It was ancient. A heavy, rhythmic thumping starts against the inside of the cold storage door. Thud, thud. It was pounding, trying to get out. "Give me the light," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Cover the door. If it comes out, hit it." I thrust the wrench towards Dad. He took it numbly, his eyes wide with primal fear. I didn't wait. The answers were in that cold room and in the duct tape box upstairs. I knew it. I turned and ran up the stairs, past Mom and Timmy, ignoring their cries. The sealed box sat where I'd kicked it. "Do not open. Not yet. Source is watching." The warning screamed at me, but the source was watching from below, and it was angry. I grabbed a screwdriver from the clutter Dad had dropped earlier. I didn't care about subtlety. I jammed it under the duct tape and ripped. Inside, nestled in crumpled newspaper, were two things. A small, old, leather-bound journal. The cover was stained and cracked. It looked centuries old. A smooth, dark gray stone. Oval, palm-sized, cold, unnaturally cold, like the notebooks. It seemed to drink the light around it. Pounding from the basement becomes more insistent. Angry. Thud, thud. Ignoring the stone for a moment, I flipped open the journal. The handwriting was spidery, faded, but legible. The foundation stone is laid upon unhallowed ground, a place where the veil is thin. The old hunger stirs beneath. It consumes not flesh, but time, the essence of moments, the sound of life, the taste of fear. It grows fat on stolen years. It wears the skins of those it consumes, walks in their light, feeds on those who remember them, love them, fear the change, the stone. Focus, conduit, anchor, binds it to the place, but also binds the consumed, their time, their echo, trapped within the hunger. To break the anchor is to free the echoes, but unleashes the hunger wholly, a terrible choice. Splintering crack from downstairs, the cold storage door giving way, Dad shouts, a wordless cry of fear. The wrench clangs against metal. It was out, fighting Dad. Timmy's scream tore through the house. "The Shadow Man! He's angry! He wants the shiny rock!" The shiny rock, the stone, the anchor. It wasn't just binding the entity. It was binding me. My stolen year, my echo. I was trapped within the hunger. The journal's words screamed in my head. A terrible choice. Free my year, my echo, but unleash the full ravenous hunger upon the world? Or leave it bound, leave myself incomplete, leave the entity contained, but still hungry, still stealing moments, still wearing skins? A crash downstairs, a pained grunt from Dad, Mom screams. The entity lets loose a triumphant, gurgling roar. It was winning. It would kill Dad, then Mom, then Timmy. Then it would take me again, wear me again, consume everything. No, there was no choice. I grabbed the cold, light-drinking stone. It felt like holding frozen static. I ran back to the hall, to the top of the basement stairs. Dad was on the floor, near the bottom of the stairs, clutching his arm. The wrench lay several feet away. The entity stood over him, a nightmare shape barely visible in the dim light spilling from the hall. It was tall, skeletally thin beneath the dripping, ragged remnants of my clothes. Its skin was gray, stretched taut over sharp bones. Its face, it was a blurred, shifting mockery of my own features, like a reflection in disturbed water. But its eyes, they were pits of absolute ravenous blackness. Strings of thick, dark fluid dripped from its jaw. It raised a clawed, too long hand towards Dad's face. Silence. Sound. It gurgled hungrily. Hey, I roared, my voice raw. Hungry? I held up the stone. Look, your anchor, your full belly. The entity froze. The shifting face seemed to focus on the stone. A low, eager whine escaped it. Source. Mine. It took a shambling step towards the stairs, away from Dad. Come and get it, I yelled, backing away from the stairs, deeper into the hall. Come on. You want it? Take it. The entity lets out a shriek of mingled desire and fury and lunges up the stairs with terrifying speed. Jake, no! Mom screamed. I turned and ran, not to the front door, not outside. I ran to the only place that made sense, the only place strong enough, the only place cold enough. My room. The stripped, bare, locked room. The room that had been its cell. Entity's wet, slapping footsteps close behind, snarling, gurgling breaths. I slammed into the doorframe, skidding into the empty space. The entity was right behind me, filling the doorway, that terrible hunger radiating from it like cold. It reached for me, for the stone. A clawed hand swishes through the air. I didn't hesitate. I threw the stone, not at it, at the wall, the far wall where my bed used to be, where the headboard would have touched the plaster. The stone smacks into the wall and sticks, not like it hit, like it melted into the surface. A low, resonant humming begins, vibrating the floorboards. The entity froze, its head tilted. The humming grew louder, deeper. The air crackled with static. The temperature plummeted. Frost began to spiderweb across the window's blackout shade. No, it moaned, a sound of pure, dawning loss. The humming intensified. The stone pulsed with a sickly, gray light where it was embedded in the wall. The light seemed to suck at the entity, pulling at its form. Tendrils of that gray light lashed out, wrapping around its limbs, its torso. The entity shrieks, a sound of tearing fabric and snapping wires. It struggles violently against the gray light. My time! My sound! My taste! It howled, its voice distorting, becoming less human, more like grinding stones. It thrashed, but the light pulled it relentlessly towards the wall, towards the pulsing stone. Its form began to stretch, to blur like smoke being sucked into a vent. A horrific, tearing, sucking noise. And then I saw them, flickering around the struggling entity like ghostly after-images. Faces. Dozens of them, men, women, children. Their expressions frozen in terror and confusion. Old Man Henderson, Mrs. Peterson, the missing child, and me, my own face, pale and terrified, mouth open in a silent scream, superimposed over the entity's shifting visage. The stolen echoes, the consumed time, trapped, being pulled back into the stone with the hunger that devoured them. The entity's shriek reaches a crescendo, then is abruptly cut off. A final loud snap-suck. Silence. The humming dies instantly. The gray light vanished. The stone was gone. The wall was just a wall. Smooth plaster, no hole, no mark. The entity was gone. Utter, ringing silence. Then a soft, choked sob from Mom in the hallway. I stood there, trembling violently, staring at the blank wall. The cold was receding, but a deep, unnatural chill remained in my bones. The silence was absolute, oppressive. Dad stumbled into the doorway, leaning heavily, his arm bleeding, his face a mask of shock and exhaustion. He looked at the empty room, at me. Is it gone? I whispered. My voice sounded alien to my own ears. Hollow. Contained, back in the stone, back in the source. I looked down at my hands. They felt numb. distant with everything it took. Timmy pushes past Mom, running into the room. He doesn't hug me. He stops a few feet away, staring at the wall, then up at me. His eyes are wide, knowing. The shiny rock ate the shadow man, he whispered. Then he pointed a small finger at me. But it ate the other Jake, too. The one from before, the sleepy one. His words hit me like a physical blow. The other Jake, the echo, my stolen year, my lost self, pulled back into the stone with the entity, contained, not freed, trapped within the hunger, forever. The full weight of it crashed down. The loss wasn't just a year, it was me. A part of me was gone, eaten, locked away behind the plaster with a ravenous god of stolen time. I hadn't recovered anything. I just contained the thief with the stolen goods still in its belly. A low, almost imperceptible humming seems to vibrate deep within the floorboards for a split second, then vanishes. The meltdown wasn't explosive this time. It was implosive, a complete and utter shattering deep inside. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just folded. My legs gave out. I slid down the wall of the empty room, landing hard on the bare floorboards. I stared at my hands. They didn't feel like mine. Nothing did. I was back. My family was safe. The monster was contained, but I was less than whole. A piece of me, a year of me, my very yesterday, was screaming silently behind the wall, digested by an ancient hunger, and I could feel the cold of that stone, that anchor, seeping into my bones from the other side. A constant, icy reminder of what was lost, of what was still hungry. The sheriff came, saw the mess downstairs, the broken door, the scattered bones, Dad's arm. We told him aversion, intruder, mentally ill, dangerous, got trapped, panic. We defended ourselves. He vanished back into the woods. We didn't mention the stone, the journal, the voices, the shifting faces, or the year I lost, or the year it lived. Some truths are too big, too hungry. We burned the journals, the imposters and the old one. The bones, we buried them deep in the woods, far away. Said prayers we didn't really believe. The cold storage room is bricked up now, concrete over the door, over the floor, like a tomb. My room, I sleep on a cot. The wall where the stone vanished, it's just a wall, but it's always cold, even in summer. I catch Timmy staring at it sometimes. He doesn't whisper about shadow men anymore. He just gets quiet. Looks sad. The doctors say it's PTSD, dissociation. They give me pills that make the world fuzzy at the edges. Maybe they help. Maybe they just make the silence inside louder. That's the worst part. The silence where a year of my life should be. It's not empty. It's hollow, like an echo chamber for the thing that took it. Sometimes in the dead quiet of night, I swear I hear it. Not a sound. A pull. A cold, insistent tugging behind my ribs towards that wall, towards the cold, towards the hunger. Like a piece of me is still trapped there, rattling its cage. And the hunger. It's patient. Did I win? I stopped it from taking more. My family is alive. That's something. But I didn't get my year back. I just locked it away with the monster that stole it. Sometimes I stand in front of that cold wall, my hand pressed against the plaster. I can feel the faintest thrum, like a heartbeat, or a chewing sound. Is it my echo? Is it my echo? Or is it the hunger slowly digesting what it took? They say I'm home. They say I'm safe. But how can I be home when a part of me is still missing? How can I be safe when I know what's waiting behind the wall? When I can feel the cold creeping into my bones a little more each day? The vanishing year isn't over. It's just contained. And containments can fail. Hungers always return. So that's it. That's where the year went. That's what stole it. That's what wore my face. And that's what's left of me. Waiting. Always listening to the cold wall. Wondering when the hunger gets out again. Will it come for seconds? Comment below. What would you have done? Would you have smashed the stone, freed the echoes and the hunger, or did I make the only choice? Do you think it's really gone, or just waiting? Let me know. Maybe your theories will drown out the chewing sound.